Hello there, and welcome to what I hope will be a simple and quick tutorial for you to start animating as fast as possible. Now, before going any further, you obviously have to have a program that is capable of animation, specifically with an animation timeline and the onion skin. Other tools can help later on in your process and in your animations, but for right now, that's all we need. It could be from Krita to Pencil 2D to any other that you have that has this capability. Now, this is not a video as to how to work those programs, how to export from them, or how to set them up. I am not an expert in that, but here we just want to get into animating. The other thing that you're going to need is a simply designed character. Right now I am drawing one as we speak. I have many that I could have used, but this one will be for animation purposes. Specifically, why we want them to be simple is because you are going to be redrawing them over and over and over. Simple outfit, simple hair, simple everything. So here, wrapping up, let's go into our workspace where we can see what exactly we're going to do. Now, you'll see that I have a layer right here, and down at the bottom you see the animation timeline. The purpose of this is to get you from point A to point B. And what I mean by that is you already have your initial pose. The second pose should be simple yet different. As you can see, I've decided to draw her looking in the other direction. And what this means is we're also going to switch the perspective of the body to have more of a frontal point of view as opposed to slightly turned to the side. Why do this? Well, because that's what you would do if you were to turn this much. Your body would not stay static. This is a simple way to add dynamics into the animation. A simple change of angle and position can make all the difference. Now here, of course, another thing you have to respect is the point of view of the hair to make sure that it is consistent. A lot of people might be tempted to just copy the frame, post it, and then invert the direction. But that would change the hair, the perspective, everything else. The outfit is easy enough, but I recommend you do not do this. Don't take shortcuts. So from point A to point B, we now have an interpoint that we're going to make. And you know what? For the sake of this, I'm actually going to make a separate layer, having sample 1 and sample 2. Here on sample 1, you're going to see me drawing her bodily position almost exactly the same, just slightly tilted. Not that different and not that dynamic. But the head, on the other hand, that is where we're going to change a little bit. That is where she's going to be turning slightly more. Now, her face will have a more frontal point of view. The reason I divided the layers was because I want to do this again, but with her body turned more and her head turned less. Now, in a minute, you'll see the difference between these two. But one thing to remember here is to keep things consistent. Now, here you'll see that the ear is a little bit off base, the eye is a little bit off base. This is a sketch. It's okay. If you do this, this is just to see how your animation is going to look. You have to keep everything the same. Because it's a frontal position, the head is going to be a little bit more different. And here you see how that looks now with the completed frame. Now, just fixing this a little bit right here. Give me a second. Switching the ear over and okay. So this is what we see in the basics of the drawing. Just fixing a few more things. Now we're going to go over to the other layer where again, now the head is going to be slightly turning, but the body is going to be turning more. Now, why is it that we don't have an exact tilt where both the head and the body are having a frontal point of view? No one moves like this. You are not rotating on a platform. You're going to rotate one and then the other. Some people turn their head first, some people turn their body first. This is perfectly normal for people to do, and it is something you have to consider when you're drawing the in-betweens of your animation. But I'll say this once and 10 and 100 times. If you can draw, you can animate. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to separate these two so you can see exactly the differentiation between each of the dynamic poses. Now, I have to fix the letters a little bit. All right, here we see the difference of the in-between. The beginning and the end are the same, but the in-between are where you're going to see the differences. Now starting with sample 2, now it becomes a little bit easier. You're going to have, you know what, let me change this to 1. and change the other one to 2. There we go, much easier. Now, with the second sample, you're going to see here specifically just drawing the in-betweens. And for anyone out there even slightly familiar with animation, you know for a fact, as I mentioned, drawing a character over and over and over implies slight changes in their position. Now, of course, keeping it constant. If you notice here specifically with the left arm, you'll notice that it wasn't exactly in the middle. The body is, the head is, but not the arm. That wouldn't make sense. It would be too skinny. You have to respect proportions, though I wouldn't worry about it too much. Just remember, if it looks a little bit off, just a slight alteration, a slight little fix, and it'll look perfectly fine. Now, another thing that I added was her eye a little bit closed to give the perspective of her blinking. Here on the first one, we're going to go back, and now we're drawing the head. And you'll see that it's the same concept, the same principle, though here we have much more movement in the head. In the second one, we have the body, and this one we have the head. But it's going to follow the same rule. She's also going to be blinking here, right? Mainly because I think that adds a more natural perspective to the movement, and you see that as we're shifting back and forth. I do apologize for the speed. It's a little bit wonky sometimes, but you know, I can't exactly do this as a time lapse of the exact time. If not, it would take us forever. So again, as you see me redrawing them again and again and now going to the other frames, you'll understand and appreciate the reason why these are simple. A lot of people are tempted to want to start to animate their character that they've had for 15 years and that they designed when they were 2 years old, and that they're the best character in the world, and they're wearing 1,000 pieces of armor, 15 earrings, and 27 bracelets on their arms. I can guarantee you that is going to be tiresome after the second time you have to redraw your character. Don't do that to yourself. You'll eventually get there. Of course, you've seen animes with very intricately designed characters, but for now, we want to get you animating. I don't want you to get disheartened or disappointed. So here in the first one, you already saw the movement back and forth, and you see how dynamic it's starting to look with a few in-betweens from the initial place of point A and point B. And again, these two are slightly different, but they have a different flavor as to how to get from point A to point B. That's what I want to call this kind of animation, A to B animation. Don't worry about the principles of animation. Don't worry about this only works with traditional. I don't know if you're going to do rigging, but don't worry about any of those concepts for now. If you can draw, you can animate. And here on the second one, I know it's a little bit rough, it looks a little weird, but this is just a sketch. It can be cleaned up later, but this is just so you can get an idea as to how your character is going to look, and so you can immediately see what the animation is going to look like. Now, in any future videos, you'll see me skipping this step because I have a little bit more experience, but nonetheless, this is what it looks like. Now, as you can see here, again and again, this flavor is a little bit different. They change and they move slightly different, but it's different enough. Now, I'm going to separate these here, and you'll be able to see them more fluid, but I want to do something a little bit special. Now I'm going to focus on duplicating sample 1, so that you're able to see that much more finely animated as opposed to the first sample, which is only going to be at around 5 frames per second. If you notice here down on the timeline, the more I animate, the more detail I put, I separate the frames and I draw the in-betweens. It's a done deal. So right here, we're going to start to put the empty frames, and you can notice immediately, again, at a certain speed, that frame rate is perfectly fine. No issues. It works just well. But what I'm going to do here, adding a couple of extra frames, is now going to give it much more fluidity. Again, don't worry about the names, the concepts, the principles. Just understand, the more you draw in between each of the frames, the smoother it's going to look. And the simpler your character is, the easier it gets to animate. I'll say it again, I think that's going to be my catchphrase. If you can draw, you can animate. So now right here, you'll notice again, it's fairly simple. Now I'm more focused on just drawing a line between each of the lines that are already there, for the shirt, for the pants or the shorts, whatever they are, for the hair. If I go down here, right here on the chest, right there where the contours of the chest with, again, the belly button, everything is in the middle. Not exactly in the middle, it doesn't have to be perfectly centered. People don't move like that. That's one of the things that I think gets us a little bit, is that we tend to think that everything is perfectly proportional. But later on, when you notice certain things like timing, which we won't get into today, but you will have to consider it later, it's that sometimes you just have to separate things, space them apart, add an extra frame to make it a little bit smoother. But here, we have the luxury of just saying, okay, we'll go from this to this to this. So now we're just missing 2 frames, but already, if you notice how it's moving between, it's a lot smoother. Look at that. Much more smooth. Now we go on to this frame over here. Oh, I forgot to put the numbers in. We'll go on and continue, and again, the same thing. Once you have your first, I would say, 5 frames for any given movement, everything else becomes a lot simpler. Of course, this is a simple movement. I would recommend all of you to do basically this exact thing, with a little variation if you'd like, with a little bit of a different timing maybe. We'll get into that later, but if you already understand how to use timing, you can separate another pair of frames, put a frame in between. It's pretty intuitive. But if you just want to do this with your own character, that would be sufficient. It is, again, to get you to animate and to show you that you can animate. And now we're on the last frame. Again, this is 1,000 times simpler than the beginning. I'm just drawing all the lines in between to make it proportional. Here on the chest part though, remember, respect the rules of anatomy. You cannot have a perfectly symmetrical in-between line there. You have to respect how it goes. Now, just moving over to the hair a little bit. I'm going to do the top of the head and nose. So, one thing also to remember here is, again, this is a sketch, but later on what you'll be able to notice is that once you have your first sketch and you draw your first pose, you'll be able to skip to clean lines only. So notice what happens right here. From the one on the bottom at 5 frames per second to the one on the top, it is much more smooth. And I'm going to separate it once more. Let's look at it with the proper timing. Look at that. Much smoother, much smoother, and it's a lot better than you would have expected. Now, I could go in and put all the in-betweens for all the frames and make it 20 frames per second. I'm not going to do that because that would cost a lot of time. But I'm going to show you here specifically just making the base. Once you have your base, your sketch, you can make the base, and you can do the exact same thing with clean lines. Now, in these programs, of course, you don't have to shade. That's a whole other tangent and a whole other problem that will duplicate. It will literally double the total amount of time for your animation. But color is perfectly doable. Once you have your clean lines, you just get the bucket fill tool, and that's it. You don't have to worry about anything. Right here, you see me putting in the clean lines of the character. We'll call her, what do we call her? I don't have a name for her. I actually feel kind of bad. We'll call her Arisa. Yeah, there we go. She's Arisa, whatever. And Arisa here, we're just gonna finish cleaning up the lines. You have the arm. Here we'll make it pants. We'll have a little bit of an indent right there. We'll put the line down for where they button up. And that's it. You just have to fix it. And these are now this is a small detail that you can add over and over and over without breaking the bank. It's not that complicated. Now, if you notice, what I've done is I've separated everything into layers. Get used to that. Separate things into layers. One for the base, one for the sketch, one for the color. Don't make it on the same layer. You will regret it. You color everything in, and bada bing, bada boom. All right. Now focus on the animation here, and this is what it could look like if I clean all the lines and color them in. Now this is pretty much the end of the tutorial. I'm going to show you guys another animation that I made, and this is much more complicated. You have the base, you have the color, you have the movement. You can get to this if you practice. But I want to see what you guys make. So do me a favor, and please, on Twitter, hashtag animation A to B or A to B animation. I'll put the hashtag in the description and maybe in the title so you guys can post what you made and share it with people. Again, if you can draw, you can animate. And I hope that this tutorial was simple enough for you guys to be able to give it a go and to see what you can make. And I promise you, once you're able to take the first step, the remaining 100 to your road of animating whatever it is you want to animate will become a lot easier. Thank you all for watching. Drop a comment, share what you animated on Twitter, and if you can subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. So thank you very much. Have a good day, and adios.